And we're back. Hold on. Yeah, it's part two. So yeah, we have Mexican actor Tenoch Huerta. Um, we've seen a number of his works. Most recent was on Narcos, but he did such a dramatic, um, compelling character based on a real person in that spin-off, because the original Narcos was more based in Colombia, so this was more of the Mexican spin on it. And regardless of the negative connotation, I've always said we can do better than that. But he still brought something incredible to the character for the show, who's based on a real person. Nonetheless, he and so our backstory of Neymar, as opposed to the original story in the comic book, which was based more on Roman theory, Roman history of Atlantis. We have more of a reimagined backstory reigning over Talocan, a Mesoamerican inspired underwater civilization, instead of the legendary Atlantis. Much like T'Challa's home of Wakanda, Talocan is a small, secretive, yet powerful kingdom. But while T'Challa opened Wakanda to the rest of the world at the end of Black Panther, Neymar remains steadfast in his desire to keep Talocan hidden from outsiders. And I believe they call him, to, I believe, his character, his closest of I believe, followers. And he is donning a crown, so very much king of Akukukan, but to his enemies, and to his tribe, is his tribe that I'm referring to. They call him that, but to his enemies, he's best known as Namor, or in Spanish, Namor. Now, the spin here is because the original character, it was just Roman. The name of Neymar was Roman but spelled backwards, and so to make it fit for this narrative, there's instances where we see, basically the history of this country of when colonizers, basically, I don't want to say the word, but blank and pillaged, all of these indigenous tribal communities, and inflicting their beliefs and religious systems upon a culture that it was already pre-existing. And we see a priest in particular who yells at Neymar, who sprouts from the ocean with these like little wings from his feet. We have some backstory into how that we have that explained as viewers of how that came to be, which I won't spoil. And but as he flies over and hovers over this priest, he says something like, "Your child of, like, probably from the devil is sin amor, un niño sin amor, a child without love." And so we were able to kind of sync that into this narrative, and hence Neymar. I will say, so he's a mutant and human explorer. He can fly. And depending on the comic books, he's not necessarily seen as a hero. He's maybe sometimes anti-hero. And we are introduced to his character that way because at the very beginning, we don't necessarily know that the story was going in that route. In fact, there are rumors that there was already a preset story that was already set for Black Panther Part 2, featuring obviously Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, but that story and narrative needed to change to now fit this story because we have unfortunately lost Chadwick. So we are also mourning his character in the film, which is so heartbreaking. The first few minutes, that's what we're introduced to. It's literally a memorial to this incredible actor, and it's heartbreaking to see because there was just so much that we all know he could have accomplished. And rest in peace, my brother. It was a beautiful, beautiful introduction and heartbreaking because we see the character Shuri, who plays his sister, is mourning his death as well. And we see Angela Bassett also come to terms with that. Queen Ramonda, who is also experiencing loss. Not only has she lost her husband, but now lost her son and king of Wakanda. And so we see them trying to scramble because of Killmonger's influence in the first film, which I'm gonna see if I also review Black Panther. He destroyed this heart-shaped herb that is able to connect the living being to the ancestral plane. So in him destroying all that, she tries, as being the scientist that she is, and this advanced laboratory that they have. Remember, they have vibranium, this incredibly powerful element, but she's trying to recreate and trying to kind of get the ingredients right, but isn't able to 3D print it so that she could save her brother. And we see how other cultures also mourn their loved ones, and it isn't always so mournful. And also that in other countries and cultures, you don't mourn with the traditional black dress and garb. In fact, they're all dressed in white. We see so many beautiful elements, punches of color. That's attributed to the architecture, craftsmanship that went into this film, and also the costumes, the costume designer. I encourage you all to, I believe the documentary and the behind the scenes that they shot alongside with the film is, I believe it's called Assembled, Wakanda Forever, and I strongly urge you to watch it to accompany the film, so you have more of a history of where they were able to grasp from, especially when we're introduced to our Namor character and the influences that would go into the Mesoamerican art that we see in the background, even down to how they dressed them with the septum. I couldn't do that. That was the one thing that that's missing. But I do have the cuffs and all of that, and it's just beautiful, beautiful architecture and huge punches of color. And even this down to the speech, the dialect is, it's Mayan. Is Mayan. And though I believe Tenoch has background or family as Aztecs, every tribe is different. But the fact that you hear it, who would have thought in a million years that a big budgeted American Hollywood film for the MCU would ever see Mayan dialect be spoken and be consumed? The film did incredible, by the way. I mean, some people will argue, well, it's a Marvel movie and it's going to make that money regardless. But I don't think so. I don't think that people are necessarily, especially how hard it's gotten to, like, survive. I mean, a box of eggs, a carton of eggs is like $8. So I don't think so. I don't think people are just kind of tossing their money as is. It made $858.5 million worldwide. In making it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 6th most highest ranked films for the MCU. That's a huge accomplishment. And I want people to realize, I want all my viewers here on, and thank you for always supporting my channel, but I also want people to realize that there is an urgency and a need and spending power in seeing our own faces reflected back to us. I wanted to do something like this with when Black Panther dropped, and I've stressed that in a number of my reviews. I believe in The Heights I made that comment, and WandaVision, and Doctor Strange. All those reviews, and even Moon Knight. I'm so thankful. I am so thankful for the amount of Latinos working for the industry and for MCU. Thank you. Thank you for incorporating our stories, our dialect, our culture. Um, and even if there is a hint of rivalry, tell me that tribes didn't do that. It's documented that there was always some form of war that went on amongst tribes. But the culmination that we see at the end is definitely worth the view, definitely worth the ticket price. So we see a family that is, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but you know, if you, I'm sure you've seen it by now. It dropped like early fall, now we're already into the next year. But nonetheless, we see a family grieving. We see a queen that now has to take full reign and is dealing with people constantly trying to steal their verbatim, their element. Verbanium, if I'm not pronouncing that wrong. And so they're constantly being met because they know it's the highest of elements that surpasses anything that exists in any other country. They're infiltrated. We see our female soldiers like stand tall and proud and beautiful. I've never seen so much beautiful melanin, and the way they are dressed as well as warriors, and also when they present themselves at like what it looks like the UN. Oh, I was so impressed and loved. And then we are introduced to a new character.